Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Thank God I paused it when I did. One of my bosses going by on a bicycle. Though to be fair, I shouldn't really be that worried, as I am now a permanent member of my company, and they haven't had any problems with me thus far. This isn't why you've called. No, I want to talk a little bit more about this invasion that's going on, and of course, Craig Houston. Because finally, the establishment is starting to admit that this is an effective invasion of our country. That is, of course, the context of all these illegal immigrants crossing over the French Channel. I guess this is a new version of the French lacrosse that I wasn't made aware of. And speaking of France, we'll also get into discussion with that about the riot that happened over there. But we've been telling the establishment and the lamestream media and all the lefty NPCs till we're blue in the face. We've been telling them time and time again that we don't have capacity and that these guys are foreign invaders. I don't know why, but the game Space Invaders springs to mind with the whole Who said I'm the mothership? Shut up, you. I'm not the mothership. Fucking hell. But anyway, the fact is, when I think of these illegal immigrants, I immediately think Space Invaders, although it's more like land invaders. But it seems even Keir the traitor Starmer has had to come out and admit this is an invasion. I think there are some pronouns that quite fit this. Very good ones, I might add. I think the pronouns "told you so" spring to mind. You can't say the indigenous people didn't warn you about this shit. And hell, Angela Merkel made a complete fool of herself when she said, as many of you that want to come over here can come. So what do you think people from third world shitholes are going to do? Likewise, what do you think the Romanians are going to do when their jobs back at home pay about an eighth of what British jobs do? You're effectively handing the fucking keys to the fat kid in Willy Wonka in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Everyone else is getting locked out, and he's helping himself to God knows what's in there. So all those times that I've been saying I can't wholly blame the illegal immigrants for doing it, as I know they want a better life for themselves, that's exactly what I mean. Of course, it won't stop me from thinking, deport the fucking lot of them, because we don't need them here. And right now, this country has hundreds, if not thousands, of jihadi warriors who are successfully infiltrated into Britain. I don't think my modern technology of a new breastplate is going to do me shit against these people. I might need to borrow Robert Baratheon's breastplate stretcher. Anyway, it's not going to protect me from these foreign invaders, especially when you think about the fact there have been raids in the last 20 or so years with, I believe the group was called Al Mahajiroun. They ended up having a sniper rifle found in this raid with tracer ammo. And yet we're supposed to sit here and say that Islam is a religion of peace. And I suspect my video, which goes into the context and the question itself, that I suspect has been censored or suppressed, because I know it's only in a couple of days. It's only got 200 views, which is fucking dismal, considering how many people I've got subscribed to this channel. That's the thing. And Gobster Talks About Things even mentioned this as well, as he has confirmed that he's also been suppressed by you fascists. I mean YouTube. Or maybe I was right first time. It seems the left-wing Silicon Valley tech groups are doing everything they can to stop the truth getting out. Now, for most of us, that's not really a surprise, as we've known this for quite some time. But it really does beg the question when you can see all the evidence in front of you, and yet some people are not getting the recognition they deserve. We are full. We cannot take any more of these illegals. We shouldn't be taking any more of these illegals. And that's before we even factor in that Saudi Arabia had 2 million tents that they could have used to house all these foreign invaders. I mean, Saudi Arabia is currently not under threat of war. There are not people that are fleeing persecution. So why is it they were unable to take these people? This was what we've been trying to tell you, Keir the traitor Starmer, and of course the Conservatives as well, because I know full well we can't put all the blame on the Labour Party. Yes, they're the current party in power, but who have been in power more than any other party? That would be the Conservatives in name only. So understandably, people like David the Conman Cameron, treasonous Theresa May, and Boris the Clown Johnson, they also have to have their fair share of accountability, as they could have stopped the boats, but they didn't. I mean, we know Theresa May, getting tongue-tied here, she was more interested in foxtrotting around the issue, which is probably why she got a little bit pissed off when she was told about the Oscar as well. You can foxtrot Oscar right now. Bear in mind as well, I think Theresa May also had a helping hand in trying to lock up Tommy Robinson back in 2018, which says all you need to know about these treasonous cunts in both the Labour Party, or again, maybe I was right first time, and of course the Conservatives. These guys are as much use to the country as a chocolate ashtray on a motorbike. I would ask for them to run on the spot, but somehow I think they'd also learn how to fuck that up. Who said I'd create craters if I did that? Shut up, you. I'm not that bad. God almighty. But the point is, they have had every opportunity to deal with this migration issue, or the illegal immigrant issue, whatever you want to call it. They've had every chance to fix the problems with the country. They have had every opportunity to fix everything that has gone wrong here. They've done nothing. When we voted for Brexit, they pussyfooted around it, and they gave us a Brino, or a Brexit in name only. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. They would rather have us been shackled to a post to the unelected bureaucrats in Brussels who didn't sign off their accounts in the last 20 years. They'd rather us be shackled to them, having to pay £55 million a day for the privilege of having unlimited immigration, no control of our laws, and no control of our borders. And as I've said before, the only reason Brexit was a fuck-up was because of the people guiding it. The people who were responsible for the HMS Brexit effectively screwed the country by delivering us nothing but misery. If these guys actually had a pair of balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, we could have easily gotten a Brexit deal that would have been worthy of our country and tells them we're not going to roll over and have our tummy tickled. Oh, bloody hell, I've got a tannoy Tina to worry about. Anyway, they had every chance to put the problems behind us. They have created more problems. I mean, honestly, this whole thing has been a complete shit show from the get-go. And then, of course, there's the obvious fact that Keir the traitor Starmer is doing everything he can to try and put us back into the European Union. So that in and of itself has been a total failure, but only because of the people leading the ship. Effectively, think of the Titanic, and Keir the traitor Starmer is guiding us directly into the iceberg. No, I'm not the iceberg. Shut up.
The next stop is Concord Road.
And you can as well. Shut up, Tina. Anyway, he is leading us straight to disaster. That's the way I look at it. But I don't want to talk too much about it because I mentioned a couple of other subjects I want to go on to. So let's move on to Craig Houston, who has now been charged under the Malicious Communications Act. And I'd like to know, where on earth was Craig Houston malicious? Because I didn't see him be racist towards anyone. I didn't see him target the woman's ethnicity or... You shut the fuck up! Or the woman's religion, which technically isn't even racism, as religion is not a race, but I digress. But he was never in any way, shape or form racist towards that woman. Nor was he in any way, shape or form trying to ask his fans or anyone else, and I'm not going to do it myself either. No one here is recommending anyone to go and harass this woman, because I don't condone that shit. And quite frankly, I don't think any of us could have even done that to her, as she effectively did it to herself. Because here's the thing, when you go out of your way to say that political representation is male, pale and stale, I mean, the first two words are blatant racism. And devil's advocate here, even if you could say it's not racism, at bare minimum, it's sexism / discrimination. So, bare minimum, this woman should be facing a disciplinary, because she is not fit for purpose as a counsellor. She's about as fit for counsellor as I am for a decathlon. But let me be clear, I'm not going after this woman because she's a Muslim. I'm going after her because of her reprehensible behaviour. Like, if I went out of my way...
Next stop is St. Stephen's Street. Get off here for Norwich Bus Station, Charcoal Line Services and Chantry Place.
We're not even St. Stephen's Street, you dickhead! Anyway, The fact is, if I said all that stuff, I'd have cops around my door kicking my door down. Just like that. But with her, I haven't heard of an arrest yet. There has been no arrest of this councillor who is blatantly racist, who I would say has offended half the fucking country, quite frankly. And yet they were willing to go after Craig Houston because they perceived him to have sent a mob of people her way. No, he did not send anyone over to her. He did not say, go after them. I haven't said, go after her, and I would recommend people do not go after her, because we don't need to be like the lefty NPCs. We don't have to degrade ourselves to their level. At the end of the day, we can take the moral high ground in all this, because we effectively have never condoned that kind of behaviour towards anyone, not even Keir the traitor Starmer. I'm not going to lie though, the bloody temptation is there, but at the end of the day, I have never encouraged anybody to go after these people. Never. This woman, openly racist towards indigenous white males. Almost as racist as Hamza Yusuf. Or yet again, maybe I was right first time, the guy who came out with that white tirade, how he was describing all those people in positions of power and how they were all white. Again, if I went out of my way to say the people who commit all these atrocities, M's. The people who are responsible for the G-squads, M's. The people who want to ban bacon and eating during the day, M's. Again, I'd have people around my door, just like that. Because there is a blatant two-tier policing that's going on here. Why should this councillor get protection when she was the one who openly started this shit? Why should she? Has anyone got a sledgehammer? Anyway, the fact is, she started this. And you can't go out your way to start something and then be crying the victim. Because you are not the victim, you're the perpetrator in all this. You're the instigator in all of this. You'll also notice how I haven't used her name, which I could totally find out, but I've chosen not to. That's the thing. I don't have to stoop to their level. I don't have to put her name out there for her to be named and shamed. There are other people who would do that for me. Not that I want them to, just to be clear. I'm talking in the context of there are people who don't have the same morality. But again, we're not obligated to censor them. Of course, it would be the morally superior option, because obviously then you're basically not condoning going after them. It would mean that they wouldn't be at as much risk of being attacked by people. But unless it's to do with doxing, we don't have to censor her name. That's the beauty of free speech. But instead of arresting the woman who was openly racist, as I said, they decided to go after a person who's not even committed a crime. Now, whether Craig is a plonker or not, like I say with Tommy, and I'm not saying he is, but whether he's a plonker or not, I haven't seen him commit any crimes. I haven't seen him breach... Pencrow, how about pen up your ass? I have not seen him commit any breaches of the law, but yet they have the nerve to charge him under the Malicious Communications Act. And you know what? Let's play a scenario out here. Let's say, for the sakes of argument, that people were able to go out of their way to find this woman because of this video. Let's say, for the sakes of argument, that's true. Be honest with me on this question and how you answer it. Do you think Craig Houston can control every single one of his subscribers? Do you honestly think he has got the ability to go into their minds and be like, you will not do this? Of course he doesn't. Likewise, I don't have the capacity to enter every single person's mind and say, do not go and harass them. I can't help it if one of my fans out of 4,000 or somebody else's 1 out of 50,000 or something goes after them. They can't help that. Thank you. Oh dear, I think I rang somebody's bell, that's for sure. Anyway, do you think we can be responsible for every single one of our fans? As I said, if we all went out of our way to say that we shouldn't go harass this person, and then someone goes out of their way to harass this person, do you think that should affect the person who put out the video in the first place? I personally don't think so, because they don't have full control of their subscribers. Like, they can say all the right things, but at the end of the day, if someone decides to go rogue, they can't help that. That's like if you were riding a cycle and then alongside you getting arrested, the bicycle gets arrested by guilt of association. Makes no sense. The bike can't control where its owner wants to go. I mean, maybe it'll have a fault every now and again, but it can't control what other people do. Time to do my good deed for the day. Get rid of this shit. Because after all, plasticine doesn't deserve its own fucking nation. But we're not here to talk about plasticine, we're here to talk about those other points that I mentioned. So, the way I look at the Craig Houston scenario is, frankly, he shouldn't have been arrested, he certainly shouldn't have been charged, and yet he's going to be in the courts. Like, how disgusting is it that a woman who is openly racist and sexist towards men, she hasn't been arrested yet because she's a protected mascot group. Yet, if somebody goes out of their way to call out someone's racism because they're part of the mascot group, they're the ones who get arrested. But the mainstream media, of course, are not going to want to tell you that. I mean, no matter which way you slice it, what this woman has done, it doesn't matter if she's Muslim, whether she's Christian, whether she's a male or female, she has been blatantly racist. So she should be arrested. She should be arrested because I think she's offended half the fucking country, the way I look at it, with her blatant male and stale racism. And if she's not going to get arrested, then it's going to prove beyond doubt, once again, that this is two-tier policing at its finest. I mean, no matter which way you slice it, even if you could somehow say that Craig Houston has done something wrong, I think we'd all agree that I think this silly cow in Scotland, this MP, in name only, has done far worse by being openly racist towards practically all males, or at least all white males within democracy. That's the way I look at it. She's one of those people that would want to subvert democracy so they can bring in their own brand of law to the country. Sharia law. And we all know how successful that shit's been. But I want to go back to the point I made in one of my last videos, which was when I questioned Islam in the first place. Sorry. 70% water or whatever the fuck it is. Gotta keep myself hydrated. Anyway, I mentioned a question. And I said, right here in this room, might have been a white shirt, might have been this one, I don't know. But I basically went out of my way and asked, if Islam is a religion of peace, why hasn't the Middle East made peace? Why is it that everywhere that Islam is the predominant religion of that country, why is it those countries have not made peace yet? Riddle me that. And we're not talking just a handful of countries. I can think of at least a dozen areas that are predominantly run by Islam. Nigeria, we've got Pakistan, we've got India, we've got possibly United Arab Emirates, we've got South Africa, we've got, trying to think now. This is the trouble when you put yourself on the spot like this. Oh dear, oh dear. India, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Egypt, Syria. Trying to think of a few more. I've said United Arab Emirates. Sudan. Not 100% sure on Nepal, but it might be for all I know. Bangladesh is another place run predominantly by Islam. Like, the point I'm trying to make is, it isn't just a small section of the world that is run by Islam. There's whole places. Turkey is another good one. Turkey is predominantly run by Islam. And what you have to bear in mind is that those places mostly have Sharia law. And effectively, that means that women get treated as second-class citizens, gays get thrown off the top of buildings or they get stoned to death, and they have much harsher laws on things like buggery and, of course, drinking alcohol in their religion, because obviously they don't believe in that shit. But, and I don't either, because I obviously don't like alcohol. Anybody saw the live stream of me drinking that fucking apple cider. Man alive, that was terrible. I never want to do that again. But jokes aside, the point I'm trying to make is while there are areas in the world that are run by Islam that are predominantly peaceful, unfortunately, there are a lot of countries in general, like Pakistan, like Afghanistan, like Iraq, like Iran, like Syria, like Egypt, that still have that little bit of inner conflict going on. Hell, Syria even had a president overthrown because of these Syrian terrorists. That's the thing. Wherever Islam goes, death is sure to follow. Or at least murder, rape, and pillage. Because it is a 5th century death cult, which has as much belonging here as I have to a fitness club. The way I see it is Islam has predominantly tried to tell us that they are a religion of peace. Well, if they're so peaceful, why haven't you made peace in the Middle East then? Ask yourselves that. I dare you. That's the thing. As I said in the last video, and I'll say here, you mentioned that point, why haven't they made peace in the Middle East? And you've pretty much debunked every argument in regarding Islam as a religion of peace. Just like that. Islam is not a religion of peace. It is a religion of subjugation, of intolerance, of death, of war. That's the cold, bitter truth. And the sad thing is, what's the book in the middle of the houses of treachery? Sorry, Parliament. It's the Quran. The Quran should be nowhere fucking near our country. It should be nowhere near the Houses of Parliament. The only book that should be allowed in that Parliament, and even then I'd question it, is the Holy Bible. And that is simply because, well, at the end of the day, this country was built on Judeo-Christian heritage. In fact, I'll be right back. Bollocks, I seem to have lost it. Let me tell you a little story. So, back on my first channel, there were a few people who actually went out of their way to converse with me on my first channel. And one of these groups of people, it was actually a married couple, Christians themselves, also got into a little bit of the Bitcoin and what have you. But these two people were apparently going along to visit Norwich City Centre while I was, I think, either going to a job or I was going to an interview or something like that. And I ended up meeting these people in Tombland. No, not the land of the tombs. But I ended up meeting these people in Tombland, and basically we had a nice little conversation, had a walk around the city for an hour or so. And eventually, I think I got given a Bible by one of these people. And I hoped that I still had it on my washing machine, because admittedly, the only real use I had for it at the time was I was using it with an ice cream tub, and I was trying to use it to prop the window I have in my bedroom open. Because, unfortunately, if I tried to stick the tube for the tumble dryer out of the window and try to hold the window up, usually the window will just slam down on it. So I end up with a crushed tube, and all the shit that comes out the tumble dryer will end up fumigating my room. But that was what I ended up using the Bible for. And I did occasionally read the odd bit of the Bible here and there. I can't remember a lot of it though, because unfortunately I didn't really devote myself to Christianity or the Bible. But I do accept that that Bible, if I had it now, would be very symbolic right now, because I could actually show it and say, you know what, I get it, I understand. And that basically is the story. I had a Bible, and I did spend a little bit of time, not a lot, maybe not enough, reading that Bible, but I fully understand that this is a Christian country. I fully understand wholeheartedly that Jesus Christ is not a person who associates himself with terror or underage marriage or wanting to inflict terror on other people, unlike that Muhammad or Allah or whatever the fuck his name is, Alan Snackbar, I couldn't care less. But the truth is, the Quran has constantly preached its violent ideologues to its fanatical followers. It has taught the religion of peace followers, or the warmongers, that it is perfectly okay to go and wage jihad against the indigenous people of the West. That it is perfectly okay to behead your enemies where you see them, to take white women as sex slaves. That it is perfectly okay to take underage girls as partners. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that shit completely reprehensible. And I wouldn't wish that shit on my worst enemy, let alone my own population. If I had a choice between deport Islam and try to rehabilitate Islam, they'd be fucking gone. Like, there would be no hesitation. They'd be out of my country. They'd be out of Nick Tenconi's country. They'd be out of the Homeland Party's country. They'd be out of the Patriotic Alternatives Party. I have no fucking doubt, even though I don't know fuck all about them. But I do know they're not left-wing. That much I do know. But I can tell you right now, a lot of these parties that are sitting in the centre or the right, Islam would be packing their bags and going back to whatever third world shithole they came from, quite frankly. We have no place for people that are intolerant of our cultures and our faiths and our people and our communities. If you don't want to assimilate, then we need to take out the trash. Simple as that. Unfortunately, we won't get that with Keir the traitor Starmer, as he's more interested in letting his enemies in, because he's categorically said that he would do everything he could to protect the Muslim community, even if these scumbags are going around murdering and raping our women and children. Keir the traitor Starmer declared his allegiance. It's not to his indigenous people of the United Kingdom. It is to BlackRock, it is to the WEF, to the WHO, and to Islam. I don't want that man in power, quite frankly. He may have been democratically elected. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that meme from Star Wars. You may be this, that, and the other, but we do not grant you the title of master, or something like that. I know that's roughly how it goes. I'll have to educate myself on that shit again. There you go. Educate yourself. Educate yourself, you see the lefty NPCs say. The group thinkers and what have you. But here's the thing. At least we're willing to admit our mistakes when we fuck up. Do you think Islam's going to admit to our country that they're a religion of basically rapers, murderers, pillagers, warmongers? Of course they won't. Because they'd be kicked out. Just like that. Am I wrong? I'd love for somebody to prove me wrong. But that's the trouble with Islam. They don't know how to have a proper debate, most of these cunts. They only know how to send death threats. They only know how to say, we're going to put a fatwa on your head. Well, don't worry about me, I'm already fat enough as it is. Anyway, they're more worried about putting hitman jobs on people. They're worried about hiring hitmen to go after people they don't like. They're more interested in throwing acid in people's faces. They're more interested in FGM, which I've rarely talked about, female genital mutilation, which they seem to approve of. That it's perfectly okay to remove a female's parts, which is completely and utterly abhorrent. It is what makes a female, and you want to remove that? As well as, of course, the halal stuff, which I mentioned as well, which I think is totally barbaric. Like, can anybody name any decent things that Islam has done for this country? Maybe I can think of one. Perfect role model of what you should never become. Like, if I had a choice between convert to Islam or die, I would happily pick the second option. I would sooner die with my principles than live on my knees as a slave of Islam. That's the thing with me. I have said this many times before, and I'll say it here again, and you can even say it with me. I'm not going to sugarcoat a motherfucking thing. I'm not going to mince my words. I'm going to say it exactly how it is, and I'll do my best not to bullshit you. And what I see right now is I see a death cult religion invading the West, trying to take over and install a global caliphate. Meanwhile, we've got leftist shills, Marxists, globalists, communists, and all the other types of dickheads on the left wing who are like, you know what, come in guys, come on, we're having a nice party in here, come on. And we're like, no, get rid of these invaders. Simple as that. We don't want Islam here. Islam has proven to be intolerant time and time again. Islam has proven time and time again, they've even said it themselves, they don't want to integrate. They want to dominate. So why is Keir the traitor Starmer not willing to admit where he's fucked up? Any man of principle would have left his position in an instant after realising he has invited his enemies through the front door. Please tell me, have I got this wrong? Or am I using too much common sense here? Is common sense flooding into every bit of my brain and making me think logically instead of irrationally and impulsively like the left would have us? I'd like to know. I really would like to know. Now, one final point is the riot in Paris. 550 migrants arrested. 2 dead. In a riot that has shaken France. That has shaken Paris to its core. These are the so-called people that our government wants to have on a boat, come to our shores and come and collect free housing, free benefits, 3 square meals a day, all at the taxpayer's expense. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound very common sense to me. I don't think that sounds like a very good idea at all. And what I find funny is when I went to the national strike, which I nearly had a national stroke, there was that silly cow at the top, the one with the racist reform t-shirt, which I've said before and I'll say again. Reform may be traitors, but they're not racist. Simple as that. They may be traitors, they may be backstabbers, they may be the Uni Party 2.0, but I will never call Reform anything that they are not, or that I cannot prove in good faith. But that woman was up there at the top of the stairs of Norwich City Hall, and she was preaching about the economy. Funny how she never mentioned anything about the migrants, eh? Never mentioned about the fact that we have all these unskilled workers. God fucking damn it. Stroke number 1. I hoped I would get away with this. All these low-skilled migrants coming here, living in our hotels. All these low-skill workers, which are proving to be a net negative to our country. She won't mention a single thing about them, or the fact that they've cost the taxpayer billions of pounds in accommodation bills for housing all these wankers, who a lot of them go out of their way to commit crimes, don't commit anything to society, or contribute, sorry, and are effectively parasites. Think leeches to blood, as these migrants are to money. They are leeching money out of us. We are hemorrhaging money. That'd be a new one. I wish I could do that, and then I have fucking check for £1 million in front of me. Anyway, we are hemorrhaging money by constantly funding the accommodation for these people. The translators we're having to pay for these people that don't even speak English. The fact that we are having to go out of our way to provide classes for these people so that they can actually speak English. It is draining us faster than you can believe. Like, I can drain this pretty quick if I go at it. They're draining it even faster. They are a parasite. A lot of these people that come over do not come over as asylum seekers. They are not genuine asylum seekers. And if they truly were seeking asylum, surely they would be taking refuge in the first safe country they got to. Rather than, oh, I'll ignore this one, I'll ignore that one, I'll ignore that one, I want to be in this one. The lefties won't have an answer for that. Do you know why they come over here? Game of charades here. Soft touch. That's why. We're a soft touch. And we pay through the fucking nose. We pay through the nose for these guys. They get the literal red carpet treatment. While our veterans are left to rot, some of them dying out on the streets in the fucking cold. And people wonder why the British population are becoming increasingly pissed off with the whole situation. Should be pretty obvious if you ask me. But she'll never mention that cunt at the top of the Norwich City Hall stairs. How much have these illegals cost us? Having to house them in prisons, having to house them in houses, having to house them in hotels, having to pay for their bed and breakfast, their 3 square meals a day, how much they cost us in damages when they commit criminal damage, how much they cost us when they're effectively fueling the drug trade, how much they're costing us when they are putting women through sheer hell, through unspeakable things that I would not wish on my worst enemies, not even Jess Phillips, and I think you know what I mean. I would not wish that on my worst enemies, and yet some of these people, especially the Eritreans, as they were proven to be 20 times more likely to commit acts of a sexual nature against our people than British nationals. Make of that what you will. Don't just take my word for it. I think Matt Goodwin also put that shit out there. But again, the mainstream media are not going to tell you that. This riot, however, has broken Paris. What do you think is going to happen if a riot breaks out here? And I'm not talking about here in Norwich. I'm talking capital city, London. What happens if a riot breaks out in Liverpool, in Leicester, in Southport, in, as I said, London, just to name a few, Edinburgh, Glasgow? What do you think will happen? We'll see scenes similar to Paris in the United Kingdom. And unlike France, a lot of us won't have the capacity to defend ourselves because the police basically went in and castrated us the first chance they got. They grabbed us by the balls, took our weapons, cut them away from us. We're effectively the USA without a First Amendment. We are effectively the US minus the guns. We can't defend ourselves. We may have free speech, though only free speech if you're on the left side rather than the right. But it's all a mirage. It looks like there's substance, but look through it and there's nothing there. The bottom line is, this country is on the verge of civil war. Even Dominic Cummings, I believe, has come out and said that we are on the verge of civil war. I don't think anything can stop it. But we have people that still want to say that Nigel El-Faraji are our only hope. That he's our only hope and that we have to vote reform. When really all that is that's complacency. That is effectively giving up on the other parties. It is effectively saying that there are no alternatives to UKIP. No alternatives to the Reform Party. But, as I said, if UKIP get their shit together, then they've got a fighting chance. Of course, if a general election is called within like 5 or 6 months, then UKIP pretty much don't have a chance. I have to be realistic on that. As much as I am loath to admit it, if a general election is called earlier rather than later, Nick Tenconi doesn't have a chance. Not because he isn't a good leader, not because he isn't a good potential Prime Minister, but because he simply won't have the support that Reform has right now. Because there are a lot of people in the Reform Party, whether they be true reformers or whether they're moronic reformians who literally have messiah complex and can't see past Nigel El-Tharaji's backstabbing tirade. Like, the cold bitter truth on that will be that as much as I don't want to vote for Nigel El-Tharaji, he may be the only hope if an election is called early. I may not want to vote for Raji, but even I have to accept that if an election is called early, Nick's got two hopes. No open Bob Hope. And I don't think Bob Hope's with us anymore. But as far as the other stuff's concerned, Craig shouldn't even be in jail. He shouldn't even be charged because he hasn't committed any crime whatsoever. He can't control his fans. He never actually... Like, the devil's advocate here is if he actually went out of his way to say, go and harass that woman, then yeah, he's dead to rights. But I haven't seen that. Not in his video, and not from what I've seen of him in the past. I've not seen him do any of that shit. As far as the migrant riot is concerned, as I said, I am very, very worried that what's happened over there is going to come over here. Think about it. If they're already rioting in Paris, what do you think they're going to be like here in Britain? When they act like entitled, spoiled brats who don't get their way, and they'll throw a tantrum and what have you. Only this tantrum isn't just... It'll be smashed windows, overturned cars, police stations on fire, riot squads coming out because they're having to deal with a mass riot. I don't want that. Likewise, I don't want a civil war. But I accept the cold, bitter truth is that may be what happens in the future. Because the English people are standing up. They're realising what's going on. They've had enough. They don't want this. They don't want our country to become a third world shithole. And if our two-tier police and Keir the traitor Starmer won't do their job, then they're going to start doing it for them. And then they will wish they had done their job. Then they really will have a fucking problem, quite frankly. And the only ones they'll have to blame if this civil war starts up is themselves. They can't sit here and say, oh, it's the far right, they've done this. Or, oh, the Conservatives, it's the Conservatives' fault. Because Keir the traitor Starmer loves the art of deflection. He takes no responsibility for any of his fucking actions. So he'll do everything he can to deflect. Only this is a particular one he won't be able to deflect, because he's actively instigated the riots in Southport. He has actively taken political prisoners. He denied Tommy Robinson his ability to be released from that prison as a civil prisoner, a civil offender. He shouldn't have even been in Belmarsh. Okay, devil's advocate, he may have been in the most secure place he possibly could have been while he was in Belmarsh, but it doesn't change the fact that as a civil prisoner, he should have been in a category C prison at most, ideally a Cat D. And knowing full well that he wouldn't be able to stay in an Islamic-run prison, they would have to put him in a prison where there isn't an Islamic population, which is not very likely, unfortunately. But Keir the traitor Starmer is literally an arsonist in a firework factory. He is just looking at all the fireworks on fucking display and he's thinking, ooh, which one do I set off first? He doesn't realise, though, that in this firework factory, you set one off, you set them all off. Just like that. What he fails to realise is if this civil war does break out, he will be directly responsible for all this because he antagonised us. He provoked us. He poked the Russian bear with a stick, metaphorically speaking. He took political prisoners while releasing all the killers and rapists. He let elderly people freeze while sending money to terrorists. He released people that weren't worthy of prison, weren't worthy of our society, that went to commit crimes again, only to go back to prison again. But he wouldn't release Lucy Connolly with Judge Hemorrhoid basically allowing her to stay in prison for her full sentence, while Nazir Ahmed, a Labour MP, serves less time for violating a boy who is underage. This is our society, folks. We are truly deep in the shit on this one. We have to make a stand. And it has to be within the next 6 to 12 months. Or this country's gone. I don't like being doom and gloom. I want to be optimistic. But I've always been more of a realist than an optimist or a pessimist. Glass half full? Glass half empty? Glass half full or empty because I've been drinking the fucking thing. Put simply. We do need to start tooling up. That's the truth. Because civil war is coming. Whether we want it or not. And I don't want it. I'll never condone it. I'll never condone a violent revolution. But I understand that our lives are in real danger here. And we can't trust our two-tier police, two-tier justice, or Keir the traitor Starmer to protect us. Our lives are in our own hands. Our country is in our hands. And if we don't stand up and fight for it, we're handing it to the enemy and opening ourselves up for Sharia law in this country.